I'm grateful to be here to celebrate her and have been invited to lift an invocation. In my faith tradition, an invocation was the African Methodist Episcopal Church. An invocation is inviting of the Spirit of God. And in this context where we all have different spiritualities, I want to just broaden that notion to an invitation to the presence of Spirit in this place, which is really stirring up the presence of God, of love, of hope, of joy within us all. So I'm going to offer this in a rather inclusive language, even though I'm from a Christian tradition. I want to offer it in a more inclusive way as we go forth in celebrating the life of Brenda that has made such a difference, Sister Brenda that has made such a difference in the lives of our community, New Revelation Community Church, and beyond. So let us, in whatever is appropriate for you, let us pray. Creator, whom we know by so many names, we are grateful to press our way into this place right now. We come with hearts and minds open to receive the life, the witness, the joy, the celebration, the words of thanksgiving extended to one who has extended herself to so many. We acknowledge the presence of love in this place. We acknowledge the presence of your Spirit in this place. We acknowledge the presence of love and hope that not only abides within us but moves through us. So let the words of our mouth stir up our gratitude. Let the joy in our heart extend beyond us to touch one another, and we rejoice together. Let the thoughts of our mind conceive the goodness we have witnessed, that we are inspired to be agents of good. Let your presence revive us, renew us, and strengthen us as we are reminded through the life of one of your goodness to so many. We are grateful. And in that place of gratitude, we say, welcome, Ashe, Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Allen. I am just so grateful to everyone that is here. Everybody, it is just an honor, and okay, there we go, and just so much enthusiasm and love for Brenda Crawford, and I want to thank Councilmember Ladiju and Supervisor James for being here. City Council Member Cookie Gordon was not able to be here today, but she has given Izzy Drangule a statement to read, which we are grateful for. She wasn't feeling well, so Izzy is another dear friend of Brenda and someone, like so many people here, that is just remarkable and does a lot for the community. So, Izzy?
All right, thank you so much. And I can't see Brenda, but I do just want to tell Brenda that I love you and I appreciate you and I appreciate everything that you've done in the community. And I'm honored to read a statement from Councilmember Gordon. So it says, "Good morning. I had planned to come in
Keith is going to read a little bio about Ms. Crawford. We are both very honored to be here to talk about what we're talking about, to celebrate, to shout out loud and say hallelujah to her existence. And her
Yes,
being
yes.
light.
So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Keith Thompson, and then I came to Vallejo back in 2007, and I mentioned to Ms. Crawford, I said, our paths have crossed several times, and I admired your work. You know, you know someone just from what you hear about them, what you see about them in the community, but we had never met for years until I was in a production of the Laramie Project, and she came and supported us. And so it's good to how full circle it is to be back here today to honor her. So we have already heard a lot about her contributions, but I'm going to continue to read this. So, Brenda Joyce Crawford has been in the thick of social justice work for over 5 decades. She's an unapologetic butcher woman who comes from a blue-collar working class background in the U.S. South. A great deal of her career has been spent promoting value-based leadership in order to create safe and welcoming environments where the richness of the information that resides with all communities can emerge and be appreciated, and included in the planning or change of processes. She's worked with such groups as the Mental Health Consumer Concerns and Progressive Research and Planning for Action, and has won numerous awards for her community work and her work supporting those of experience of alcohol and substance abuse, including the California Legislative Assembly Certificate of Recognition for frontline work, and certificates of recognition and appreciation from the Congressman Barbara Lee and U.S. Senator Barbara Boxer. So if you can put your hands together for Brenda Crawford. And that's not it. So I also have the opportunity to host the Poetry by the Bay. We've been doing that for about more than 15 years here in Vallejo. And so what better way to honor someone with a poem? And Misha and I thought about it.
Yeah, so the poem, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm a theater person, so I could project. So the poem was written originally by Sonia Sanchez, who I happen to love as a writer and as one of her students. So she wrote this piece called 9 Haikus. And so we're going to read what her 9 haikus are. And then the 10th one is going to be the one that I wrote. And it's going to be Haikus by Sonia Sanchez. Kathleen Cleaver, Quicksilver Panther woman speaking in thunder.
Charlene Hunter Gault, summer silk woman brushing the cobwebs off southern legs.
Shirley Chisholm, we saw your woman sound footprinting congressional hallways.
Betty Shabazz, your quiet face arrived at a road unafraid of ashes.
Fannie Lou Hamer, feet deep in cotton, you shifted the country's eyes.
Barbara Jordan, Texas star, carrying delicate words around your waist.
Rosa Parks, baptizer of morning light, walking us away from reserved spaces.
Marlee Evers Williams, you rescued women and men from southern subscriptions of death.
Got it? Okay. Dr. Dorothy Eileen Height, your words, helped us Roger? Is that right?
Yeah.
The wonder of woman. Right, okay. And then, this is number 10, which is the piece that I wrote for Ms. Crawford. Ready? Soft, strong, caring, butch, warrior extraordinaire, beats back ignorance. Thank you. Okay, so.
So next is a YouTube oral history.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. I'm gonna mix in, I realized that I read questions about the symposium for some reason, partially because people tend to ask me questions when I'm in the middle of doing stuff. But I was trying to figure out why that was, and I decided that at some point today I did want to fit in a question session. I'm like, okay, face your fears or whatever. But one thing I'll say that one of the reasons I started the symposium, and we've been here, it's been going since 2018 with some breaks. We've been at Vallejo Naval Historical Museum, and I am just so grateful. They've been wonderful to the symposium. But a theme for me is that you need to tell stories, and we need to record people, get that information down, most of all from people who have not been listened to and recorded and honored. And so that's just something I encourage everyone to do. I mean, we all know so many interesting people. I had the honor and pleasure of doing several with Brenda about 2 years ago. Set up your iPad and just do it. Don't wait for professionals or whatever. Don't wait for anybody. So yeah, those are all available. And so what I did, which was very difficult, was edit those further down to get an even more abbreviated view, particularly some of the stories that Brenda has, because there's also a lot of conversation about Vallejo and all of that. So I'm going to start that, and and then what I'll say is that this connects to Byron Rustin because a point of view was issued 20 or 30 years ago that Rustin is not better known because he was gay. And my strongly held belief and opinion is that the problem is that there's not enough knowledge about African American history. And plenty of people know who Rustin was. They simply were not asked. So, we need to do, so that's just important. And so the that's just real connected to recording these oral histories, because we need to get out and ask and get these stories done. And for what I learned, when I first learned about Rustin 25 years ago, I thought I didn't know about him because he was gay. I didn't know about him because I didn't know anything about African American history. So I just hope, counter that. And when you say when you hear somebody's not well known, just ask, okay, by who? So I'm gonna start this with our friend Brenda Crawford, and we should be hooked up to the okay, let me so you want to just say your name and where you were born?
Volume.
Okay, one person is saying turn it down and one person is saying turn it
No, turn it down.
House lights.
Oh, okay. Hey Trevor, where's the house lights? Again, sorry.
And turn up the volume.
Okay. Oh, thank you, Trevor. Oh, thank you, Keith. Okay, we've got theater people here who tend to know everything.
So while we're paused, we should
Yeah,
all
please. Thank you, Trevor.
thank Anna for doing this.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to point out that you are unusual. I mean that in a good way. And it was really nice to say how you recognize and support my people. And I truly appreciate that from you. And I think we all should just give her a hand.
Brenda Crawford was born in Jackson, Mississippi. I'm 75 years old, soon to be 75. Later this year, blessed and highly favored, have lived a life of activism for the last 40-some odd years.
So, you want to just say your name and where you were born?
Brenda Crawford was born in Jackson, Mississippi. I'm 75 years old, soon to be 75. Later this year, I am blessed and highly favored. Have lived a life of activism for the last 40-some odd years. Had a stroke recently and am recovering from a stroke, but even during those times I have been blessed because only, I think it's like 30 or 40% of the people who have the kind of stroke that I had survive. And as you can see, I'm still here and kicking, so glad to be here. Thank you, Anna, for doing this. I grew up in Jackson, Mississippi, but, and I certainly, with my age, I grew up in the segregated South. My grandmother raised me. My mom and I grew older together because my mom had me when she was 16. So as I was growing up, she was not only my mother, but she was my best friend because she was so young. And in the segregated South, I went to segregated schools. My grandmother, who raised me, used to prepare meals for the Freedom Riders who would come down south, and there would be young people, a lot of them young Jewish people. That's why I have this unshakable commitment to the Jewish community, because very few people know what part Jews played in the civil rights movement, and it was great. So my grandmother used to cook for the Freedom Riders at a church called Clark Street Missionary Baptist Church, and I met a lot of young folks who were social social justice activist. And that only gave me the incentive as I got older to do the same thing. And I've done that for, as I said, 40 years. And continue to do whatever I can at the age of 75, soon to be. I'm now working with older lesbians, trying to make sure that we don't lose our relevancy and we don't leave all of our rich history behind. And we hand over our legacy to younger lesbians of all color who are coming up. So,
What was school like?
what was school like?
Yeah.
Well, I grew up in the segregated South, so I went to an all-black school, and of course we did not have the same sort of resources that white kids had. So, I mean, it was, even instead of that, I think even though that happened and that we didn't have the same kind of resources that white kids had, we had wonderful teachers. I still remember
Do you remember their names?
I do.
Yeah.
I
What were
remember
their
my teacher, Mrs. Nelson. I come from a family of teachers. My aunt was named Matilda Barney, and her other sister was Janie Barney, and they were teachers in the Jackson public school system, Jackson, Mississippi public school system. And so I went to school with my aunt. I went to the same school that my aunts taught in. And in fact, my Aunt Matilda has an endowed chair at Jackson State University.
Oh.
You know.
Then what was her last name?
Barney.
Matilda Barney endowed chair.
Right. In Jackson, Mississippi. So, so I grew up with educators, and my grandmother, who raised me, was a traveling school teacher. Back, they used to have those. Where she would go from plantation to plantation to teach African American farm workers during the off season. So yeah, young black men and women had to work in the cotton fields during the summer, and then in the fall they would go to school, usually in these one-room schoolhouses that some people in the community had built for African American students. And my grandmother would travel around from plantation to plantation teaching kids. She often talked about those stories of teaching farm boys who were older than her and who were certainly a lot bigger, because my grandmother was a short woman. I come from a tribe of short women who have
Only in height.
Yeah, small and mighty, but small in stature but mighty in spirit. And so she would tell me stories about trying to teach these farm boys and get them to behave with her middle self. And she was a mighty woman. So I come from a long line of black community activists.
Do you know where she went to? Do you know where she went to school? How she got her teacher's certificate, or how much?
Well, during that time, you did not have to have a college degree to teach, be a traveling school teacher. You had to have a high school diploma and a teaching certificate from tests that they would give traveling teachers. And so my grandmother was one of the first ones who took.
She's probably like 15 or 16.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So my grandmother was one of the first people who took the teacher's test in Mississippi at the time when they had that. She later went on to Jackson State University, where my aunts have the endowed chair. She never finished, but she did later on in life go to college, and she stopped being a traveling school teacher when that system was no longer legitimate in Mississippi, when they developed public school systems, and so and required the teachers have a college degree. My grandmother never had one, but then she went on to work the rest of her life as a food service supervisor in the Jackson public school system, where she would supervise cafeteria workers who were working in black schools. So I come from as I said, a long who was just absolutely...
Mother Aura.
Yeah, Mother Aura, who was absolutely the love of my life. Later in her life, she started a nursing home ministry where she would go into the nursing homes all around this little town on Long Island, bringing comfort to people who were in nursing homes. And my mother later became the mother of the Church of God in Christ, her local church in Amityville, and she was a great believer. And since I've had my stroke, I've actually had dreams about my mom coming back because I was her pride and joy, and she was my pride and joy. And I miss her, particularly now that I'm getting older and getting closer to going home to be with her. I really miss her. So, you know, I've lived a really rich life. I've had a really rich life. Born and bred in Mississippi, now living in Vallejo, California. I came out before Stonewall, before the women's movement. Was active in, not active, but I remember the Stonewall riots. I remember riding the subway riding the Long Island train from Amityville to New York and going to Stonewall and seeing folks out in the streets and trying to figure out what was going on, and then figured out that it was because of police harassment. The police have a terrible record of harassing gays and lesbians back in the late 50s, early 60s. You know, our civil rights were not protected, nor were we respected, and we could get arrested. I remember one day walking down the street with my girlfriend at the time. I think I was like 17, and we were walking down the street, and she had my arm, and people yelling out of the window, queer, and you know, just horrible things. So, you know, after having lived through all of that, it was only natural that for the rest of my life I would fight for LGBT visibility. And now that I'm older, I'm fighting for LGBT seniors to have a full quality of life. Because the chances that we will be married or have a dedicated partner like I have, who has been my partner for the last 20 years, is very rare. Most of us will age in isolation and alone. That's why groups like Zambia Nobler, National Organization for Black Lesbian Aging, is so important. That's why OLAF, Old Lesbians Organized for Political Action, is so important, that we all mobilize to keep the folks who paved the way for us, keep our legacy alive, and keep doing the work that needs to be done. There is so much work still needs to be done.
And you've so done it, Brenda. I just gotta cut you off for a minute, and I know you worry about this somewhat too, but you've so had an influence. You have, your generation, I mean, heroes.
Yeah, I do worry about it. I worry that young folks don't realize the road that we've traveled and what a painful road it's been.
Yeah.
And that we did the fight so that they could be free.
Yeah.
They could be free to express their love in any way that they wanted to. And I get kind of emotional about it because back in the day, it was never comfortable to be a Black lesbian in the Black community. I've always fought to keep my foot in the Black community and refused to let anybody tell me that my sexual orientation made me less than. I remember I was on a TV show in Oakland maybe 20 years ago, and I said that the Black church would not have any musicians, would not have any ushers if the Black LGBT community deserted the Black mainstream church. And gosh, I get hell for that. We already played a role in the Black church. As I get older, I want to go back to the Black church, but I refuse to go to any church where the minister is going to say, it was Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. I can't tolerate that kind of nonsense. And Jesus Christ never said anything about lesbians or gays. It was, I don't even remember that passage in the Bible talking about it's an abomination for a man to lay down with a man as he would with a woman or for a woman. I don't even know if they say woman. I think
They don't, cause that, that's like not the real world. I know you were really close to your grandfather, your pop.
Yeah.
What was his name?
Booker Taylor.
Booker Taylor? Oh,
Booker Taylor Jr.
where was he born?
He was born in a little town in the Mississippi Delta called Vaughn, Mississippi.
Vaughn, Mississippi. And so what year was that then?
Oh my God.
Like
1908 or
1908.
I don't know, long ago. I'd have to look that up,
Yeah.
I don't remember. But my grandfather was born on a sharecropper farm, and he and his family were sharecroppers for many, many years, and then he left the Mississippi Delta and he went to work on the railroad, the Illinois Pacific Railroad, I think, or one of those railroads. He went to work on the railroad, laying railroad tracks. I mean, he wasn't a Pullman car porter or anything. He was a laborer on the railroad. And he worked there for many, many years. And then he worked there for probably over 20 years. And then when he got retired, he was still young enough to go to work again to another place. And then he went to work in General Motors. And he worked in General Motors for over 20 years.
Was he unionized?
Yeah, he
He
was.
was? Okay.
Yeah, my grandfather was a shop steward.
Yeah,
for the
wow.
union, yeah. My
Which
grandma,
union was it?
the American Automobile.
Oh, okay, yeah.
My grandfather was 100% union. I tell everybody, he's rolling over his grave because I haven't had an American car for years. And before I leave, Daddy, I'm going to buy it.
Yeah, he was a shop steward, African American man, and then,
Yeah. So, he worked for GM in Saginaw, Michigan, which I used to spend my summers in Saginaw. By that time, my mom had moved to a little town on Long Island called Alleyville, and I would go and spend the summers with my grandparents in Saginaw, Michigan.
and you went to spend your summers with your grandparents in Mississippi too,
Right.
right? So, wow.
Yeah, but in Mississippi as well. So, finally my grandmother and my grandfather moved to Saginaw, moved back to Jackson, Mississippi, moved back to their hometown. They both buried in a graveyard that I'm going to go visit next year called Forest Lawn Cemetery.
I'm gonna go tell them that you're on your way when I go there in February.
Okay.
I sure will.
Go look up Matilda Barney, James Barney, Booker Taylor, and Annie Taylor. Go look them up and tell them that I am on my way to see them for one last time before I go to join them. I don't know why I'm getting so emotional talking about this, but I've had a rich life. I've had a very, very rich life. Despite all of the discrimination for being an openly black lesbian in the 60s, my life has been incredibly rich. I've made good friends like you, Anna, who has stuck by me through thick and thin.
So one of their teachers was Mrs. Nelson. Was it Mrs. Nelson or Miss Nelson?
Mrs. Nelson.
Okay, because that's one of the things. Like white teachers had to stop when they got married. But yeah,
And Mrs. Nelson was killed by her husband in domestic violence.
oh, so how old were you when that happened?
Probably 12.
And so did they try and so kids just find stuff out?
Yeah, and I guess now that we're talking about it, maybe that's why my commitment to erase domestic violence is so strong.
So did your family get the Defender?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, the Defender. See, I'm sort of like, yeah, they distribute it and get subscriptions.
Right.
So did you get, like, where did you get it? Was it coming in from different sources, or?
It was coming in from different sources,
Mhm.
but I remember my grandfather always bringing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, I grew up with that as well. There's so much rich history that we have in this country that we need to tap into.
Do you remember the names of kids you played with?
Yeah, my best friend was a woman named Loretta Whiting, and her family owned the local grocery store, corner store in my town. And my grandmother had an account up there because she worked long hours. So when I would come home, there would be nobody home. And so my grandmother would leave money up at this corner store for them to make me a sandwich when I came home.
What kind of sandwich?
There was a bologna sandwich, always a bologna
Yeah.
sandwich. A bologna sandwich and a bottle of knee-high orange soda.
You didn't have a bottle of soda every day?
Yeah, I did.
That is nice.
I know, that's partly why I'm addicted to sugar, right?
Yeah, but still, it would real treat.
Yeah, it was. And my grandmother always made sure that I knew I was special. From having a charge account at the local corner store when I was like 7, 8, 9, 10, that I could go in there and get anything I wanted.
And when you talk about that era too, I mean, just think about the fact like, oh, you can like just hit, I mean, how long the walk was it from your home to the school? I mean, to the store?
Probably a couple of blocks.
Yeah,
It was a corner store. It's
yeah, you
called.
can like send your kids to the corner store.
Yeah, I have some pictures of that store.
Oh, I'd love to see it,
On
yeah.
my Facebook page.
Oh.
The last time I went to Mississippi, the store was still open. And my friend Loretta, whose parents opened the store, was still operating it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's
So that
amazing.
was probably, 8, 9 years ago.
So what were some
Before that.
games that you played?
We played hopscotch,
Hopscotch,
jacks.
jacks.
I was really good at jacks.
I mean, they had jacks too when I was a kid. You never.
Double dash as well.
So when
I was never that good at it, but there were kids in the neighborhood who were double Dutch champions,
So when you were a kid, like, you were probably pretty young when you started, like, feeling, like being gay or like feeling. Kids know. My experience, kids know pretty young.
Yeah. I mean, I knew when I had a crush on my best friend, Loretta Whiting. And kids are sexually curious at that time.
Yeah.
And one day her mom came in and found us in bed together. Now, I don't know what we were doing. I think we were just laying there.
Yeah.
But I found out very early on that whatever we were doing, we were not supposed to be doing.
Were you frustrated about, like, consciously frustrated about stuff like having to do with, like, boys do this, girls do that?
Yeah, I was. I remember I was never really into the boy scene. Although,
Yeah.
There wasn't much alternative. When I found out about Stonewall, as I said, I got on the Long Island train and rode to New York City, Greenwich Village, got the subway in New York and rode to Greenwich
How did you
Village.
find out about it?
I don't
You
know.
just, yeah.
I don't know.
Did you hear about it from friends, maybe?
Maybe.
Yeah.
But I heard that there was a place that people like me hung out.
Wow.
So I got on the Long Island train, rode there by myself, got into Penn Station, got on the subway, and went up to Greenwich Village.
Okay, so people, whoever's editing this,
That I could not be the only one.
Yeah.
I could not be the only same gender loving woman. The first, I went to a daughter's Vanitas meeting. It was incredible. I went to my first daughter Vanitas meeting. Vanitas, it was in
I always thought it was Billius, but I could be
Vanitas.
wrong.
Okay. I may be mispronouncing it. But anyway, I went to my first meeting, and it was up in some woman's apartment in New York. And I walked in, and there were all of these white women with these tweed suits on, and these sensible
Oh,
shoes.
man. This is gonna be the subject of like a couple segments of the oral history audience, just so you know.
There were these white women with these suits on and these walking shoes, and they all look like, nobody looked like me, let me say that. And so I walked in, and I automatically knew that I did not belong there, because I kept talking about, how did you come out, and most of these people were not out, they were dead up in the closet. So it was kind of like a secret society.
And so were they, I mean, I would think that were they like giving you looks and
They
stuff?
were giving
Yeah,
me,
yeah.
giving me looks because I was black,
Yeah.
and they were also giving me looks because at that time I was 100% butch.
Yeah.
I kind of dressed like a young tomboy, you know?
Yeah.
And they were giving me looks, I think, because of racial and because of how I chose to dress and how I chose to live in the world.
And you had, what job were you working in the time?
I think I was working at the hospital. I was a occupational therapist aide at a hospital on Long Island called Fair Oaks. And
You were still real young then,
I was young.
like 20?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
I moved out of my mom's house when I was 17 or 18.
Yeah.
My sister and I, we moved into a house where we had 2 bedrooms and use of the kitchen. And we lived there for a long time. And then I never went back to my mother's house. I think my sister did. And shortly after that, I decided to move into New York City. And I lived on Riverside Drive with the first woman who is my partner. Her name was Dr. Olivia Pearl Stokes.
Oh.
We met at, I can't remember the name, Abyssinian Baptist Church.
Oh, okay.
The church of Adam Clayton Powell.
Okay.
Was his
Well, that's
church.
interesting, so, yeah, Adam Clayton Powell, we're gonna have to like get into him a different time too, but would you say, I've also heard, I mean, there were other gay people at that church, weren't there?
Yeah.
I've heard that too.
Yeah, there were.
Yeah.
I mean, the church was full of closeted
Yeah.
queens and kiddies.
So it was like the girls, they were friends of your family, people in your community that were women that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Was that in Mississippi?
That was Mississippi.
Okay.
Yeah, there were lots of closeted lesbians.
Do you remember their names? Yeah. Because he was talking about how, nobody, about how your grandfather, nobody would ever been allowed to hurt them, or.
Right.
There are people that were loved.
Everybody, I grew up on a street called Prosperity Street.
Wow.
There was nothing prosperous about Prosperity Street. But I was born in a house that my grandfather built. It was on 188 Luke Street.
188 Luke Street.
Yeah. And so there was Luke, James, it was all of the books in the Bible that were the names of these streets.
Wow.
And we were not particularly blessed or spiritual or any of that, but it was a very close neighborhood. And so I grew up during a time when black folks knew about black folks, but it wasn't any big deal. I mean, it wasn't any big deal. Like my mom and my grandmother never told me not to go over to Betty Jean's house, I mean, I would go over there and she would braid my hair, and she would, comfort me, it was just one of those things that people knew that it just.
But you didn't call her Betty Jean, did you? You call Miss Betty Jean, or?
No, I called her Betty, I think.
You did? Yeah.
She was actually the first closeted lesbian that I ever made, and the first woman who ever touched me. I didn't know what was going on, but all I knew is I liked it. So growing up in the South as a child and recognizing that my feelings were different than a lot of folks, this is one particular incident that I remember that will stay with me for a lifetime. There were, on my street was poor black people. On the street over from me, the name of that bicycle. And he didn't have a bicycle. And I would let him ride mine, and I would put him on the back of mine, and I would ride. He would put me on the back, and we would ride. I remember my cousin, whose name was Charles Taylor, came up and knocked the kid off my bike and made him cry. And I remember jumping up and like trying to smack him, saying, "Why are you doing that? Why are you doing that?" He said, "I'm doing it to save your life. Black folks and white folks don't interact down here like that. Or black folks and white folks are not friends." And it's like, but he's my friend. And I remember this kid crying, and I remember trying to encourage him and just saying, "I'm so sorry that happened," you know. And that one incident sort of stayed with me for years in terms of the cruelness of racism, both black and white.
Oh, yeah.
Then my family moved from Mississippi. My grandfather and grandmother went to Saginaw, Michigan. At the time, I was getting older, and I didn't want to live with my grandparents anymore. So I wrote my mother, who was living up in New York, and my mom sent me a ticket. I remember.
I'm sure you wanted to get to New York.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember every single moment on that plane. I was in such anticipation because I had no idea how big New York was. I thought, oh, I'll just get a cab and go to my mom's house. You know, and I flew into Newark.
Yeah.
And I had no idea how far Newark was from Long Island.
When was the first time you went on a plane?
Probably during that time. I think it was my first time on a plane.
Yeah, so was that, because didn't people usually take trains?
Yeah, people took trains.
So that must have been exciting too.
It was. But even the planes were segregated. You know, so I had to sit back in the plane. Women all across the country who I am in touch with understand that there are many of us who fought for the freedoms that they have today, and that it was not always an easy road to travel, but that through perseverance and developing, remember there used to be consciousness raising groups. Remember those women?
Were a lot of them were white women?
Yeah, a lot of them were white women. But there were a small group of black women who did it too. You know, and it was really around gaining more visibility for black queer people. You know, there was at one point there was a group of black men, a group of brothers called the Black Men's Network, I think, Black Men's Exchange, which was a group of black men out of Oakland who worked to have black brothers have more visibility in the LGBT movement. A guy named Joe Hawkins.
Yeah, Joe Hawkins.
Yeah,
Lion King.
yeah, he's still at the bottom. In fact, I think he's the director of the Oakland LGBT
He is.
Center.
Yeah.
So Joe and I go back a long way as well. You know, I've known Joe for years. And so proud of the work that he's doing now.
You were just in so many movements and everything, you know, your whole life. Can you talk about what was fun about it?
Well, I think the whole thing that was fun was that we were young and we thought we could conquer the world, you know. We never...
Did you party and date?
Oh yeah, we partied.
What was dating like? I'm always really interested in that.
In the early days, when I first came out, yeah, I dated lots of women, and it was, you know.
Where did you meet?
Probably in one of the lesbian and gay bars that was on Long Island. There used to be a place on Long Island, I can't remember the name of it, but
I don't remember the name.
yeah, there was a place on Long Island that was one of the premier spots for gays and lesbians, primarily lesbians. But I used to go out there a lot, and I met a lot of women out there. And then there was a place up in Harlem that was, again, I think it was called Sylvia's. Maybe that's a soul food restaurant. I don't know. There was a place up in Harlem. You could ask Joyce, she would know better. that was primarily a lot of black lesbians would go there, and I would go there too. But yeah, I met lots of women. The first woman that I had a relationship with, her name was Tina, and she was a barmaid in a local bar. And I remember at that time I was drinking rum and coke, and she just kept giving me these rum and cokes, you know, and I got pretty lit, and so finally I said, no, I have to go home, and I'm getting to the point where I'm not going to be in any condition to drive. She said, no, just sit here, you're coming home with me. And I was like, oh.
So that would have been about the 50s, 60s.
Yeah.
I remember how people dressed her. Was she cute?
She was cute, she was very cute. You know, we dressed in bell bottoms.
Yeah.
So I went home with her, and then that was my first introduction, you know.
Wow.
And
You jumped right into the bartender. I mean, wow.
and so we stayed together for a little while. But I never forget that the night, she had a lot of men who thought were hitting on her, because she was so attractive. She was a very cute girl. And one night I walked in, and this man was trying to hit on her, and she said, I don't know what you don't get, but I'm going home with her.
What was her name?
It was Tina telling this man.
Tina. Okay, her name was Tina.
Yeah, telling this man, I don't know what you don't get, but I'm going home with her. And you know, the dude jumped on me, assaulted me in the bar.
Oh my God.
Just started to wail on me, this man, and she came out behind the bar, was hitting him with a broomstick and doing all kinds of things. And then I went home and I told my stepfather, this was the only thing my stepfather ever did that was, I think, socially unique. I told my stepfather that this dude had jumped on me in the bar. And my stepfather went back to the bar and pistol whipped me.
Oh, I remember you telling.
Don't you ever touch my daughter.
Wow.
So that's one thing I can't say that he did for me. And the guy never touched me again. But you know, it was awful. I mean, I just walked in the bar and she said, I don't know what you don't get. I'm going home with her. And I looked, and next thing I know,
Did you get 86?
oh yeah, he did. He got banned from the bar. He got pistol whipped by my stepfather. I was at Stonewall House, as I lived in and I would go into Martinsville. So I was at the Stonewall. I lived there for 5 years. I was down in that area, and I certainly saw things that started out at Stonewall. And that also was one of the highlights of my life, to be down at a demonstration that started the LGBT movement in this country. And so came the Stonewall Democratic Fund, and the Victory Fund, and all of those things. So it is an amazing thing to me to have the kind of history I have in politics, both in Vallejo and nationally. But you know, my faith came from my mom. My mother was a tremendously faithful woman. And I grew up in Long Island. I grew up in a little town called Amityville, Long Island. And my mom was a mother of the church, and my mom was incredibly faithful. And so I learned from her.
And, okay, Travers, okay, I think we need to take it where, chill for a little bit and have a discussion, but there's a couple more hours, basically, of this, and, you know, this is just a taste of it, and very to edit. So, Rich.
Thank you, Brenda.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. I had no idea. And then you were talking about things that I have experienced. It's really wonderful that that's being shared. Hi, welcome. Come on in. So, is anybody here present want to say something? Want to give us words of wisdom? Sure. Come on, Novella.
Okay.
Oh, by the way, Keith Thompson is a member of the Chocolate Rainbow Production Company. And so is Novella, and so is Ms. Tamika. So if you're interested, then we have information, this flyer on the table about Chocolate Rainbow. All right.
I remember meeting you at Nathan's Conscious Cup, I think, and it was just really, I had just moved here in it was like 2015. I had been diagnosed with cancer. I met all my people down at this Nathan's Conscious Cup, and it was just, everybody that I met there was just so open, and I remember sitting with you and Andrew, Andy, Townhouse Andy.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, you guys had invited me to I think it was a LGBTQ democratic group situation. And I felt just really honored to be invited, and I felt really inspired and motivated by you. And I know we didn't get to hang out too much, but you know, wherever we went, you were there, and I'm really happy to have met you. And I'm just gonna keep on holding the tradition and keeping keeping us safe and solid. So appreciate you and love you very much. Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Yes, me.
Want to say something?
Me.
Who? No, you can't say that.
All right. Hello, everybody. Time is gold, you know. Time is precious. Time is gold. And Miss Brenda put all her time. I remember I moved to this town 23 years ago. And the warming welcoming that I have from her, it was amazing. To me, she's been an inspiration for the work that I'm doing with the Solano Ice Coalition for the last 23 years. I dedicate my time, like I say, time is gold. So I want to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for all what you do for the community of not only Vallejo, Solano County. You've been in so many different cabinets, you've been everywhere, and your work is amazing. So I will going to continue the work as long as that God gives me time to continue the work that you do, protecting our LGBTQ and also providing to all these families in need and do a social movement. I want to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart, and thank you from the Solano Ice Coalition. And I bring you a little present.
Mario, thank you so much. Yes. Anybody else?
Well, before you do that, first, just thank you for sharing your story, that oral history, and I know I heard there's hours more. It was just so touching, and being a student of African American Studies, learning at school and reading books is one thing, but to be able to hear from someone's mouth what they went through, what they experienced, it's just a whole nother level. And then I remembered, I kept saying that we had met before. I lived in Oakland, and when you mentioned the Black Men's Exchange, I went to some of those meetings. So I was like, I knew there were times when we had crossed lives, and so it was great to hear that and see. I said, that's what it was. And Joe Hawkins, and he was a great mover and shaker in Oakland right before I came to Vallejo. So I just wanted to say that and how important it is to say thank to Anna again. I don't know where you are, but just the concept of capturing stories and sharing, it really is powerful. So thank you for all your work for doing that.
What do I want to say? But as I was watching the video, and you just kept bringing up places I've been in, and it just really took me back, like being in New York and the community, and being at Stonewall, and going to my first gay parade in New York. So it just brought back so many fond memories that I have. And the most interesting thing for me is that what happened in the past is happening now.
Yeah.
And your strength gives us strength, gives me strength to stand up and say, oh, hell no.
Hell no.
Everybody say, hell no. So thank you for that. Thank you so very much for that. So, Anna?
Yeah, we are about to take a break, but I want to again express my thanks to everyone being here and say there's just so much richness here. We have Ms. Bob Davis from the Louise Lawrence Transgender Archive right here in Vallejo. So that again is just documenting important history. So I mean, particularly, we still need, again, more Black and people of color records, which Ms. Bob is working on. So we definitely all need to connect, and thanks to Janet and everybody. And I want to extend a special welcome to there's 4 generations here. We had Tina and Dwight Monroe with their daughter Dina, who I'm very excited. She's walking. Oh, hey, Dawn. So, that's what it's about. Hey, Dina. We're gonna take a break and what? Sorry. Oh my God, yes. Can we bring preference? Good Lord, does this mic, I forgot. Does this mic move?
Not really.
Oh, but the cord, how long will it?
It is not really that long. No.
Oh, there we go.
Gotcha.
Remember, we have theater people here. Okay, well, I don't want to sit down, I do want to stand up. And I think I can do that without falling down. So if I fall on you, huh? Or be enough to inspire me to fall. I want to thank Anna my goodness, Miriam. I want to thank Anna for the really wonderful words and for this gathering. Excuse me. I'm at an age that my mother says is the loneliest time of a senior's life. And that is when you start to outlive your friends.
So, you know, the message of community is so important, especially now when the LGBT community is under attack, particularly trans people. I have resigned from an organization that I have been in for years. I won't tell you the name of it, but I've been in this organization for years, and I resigned because they have a no trans policy. Only women-born women are allowed to be in that organization. And I can no longer hold those values, you know? I can't hold those values. Trans people are some of the most victimized people in our community. And how do you desert people in your community that make you this vibrant and live community? The first person who told me that I was a lesbian was a trans guy named Billy. And he lived out on Long Island. And Billy was a trans, and he was a trans prostitute in New York. And he took a trip up to a hotel room, to a seedy hotel room in New York. And the guy found out he was a man and threw him out the window, you know, and killed him. That kind of atrocity that happened to trans people in our community cannot be ignored. And as long as I'm here and I have a mouth, I will continue to speak out about it. Black lesbians have been victimized, and some of you white lesbians, if you're honest, you will admit this, think that we're exotic, you know, that there is something exotic or special about us. And so you take a great deal of pleasure in having black lesbian lovers. But there are some white lesbians and black lesbians who are partners who have legitimate love stories. I know a lot of those women. Their love stories are legitimate and they are powerful. I just happen to be the kind of person who never wanted to be in bed with anybody, and then all of a sudden I wake up and racism is laying right in the middle of us, you know? I just never wanted to have that experience. But you know, it's not an experience that you can avoid because we live in a racist society, so it's going to be there. But it is up to us to continue to fight. It is up to us to continue to hold the values of Stonewall, Daughters of Palladius, all of the old folks who came together. There's a woman in Vallejo who is 80, I think Joyce Penava is like 83 or 84 years old. And Joyce Penava is from New York. And Joyce was in a group called Sister Souls, which was the first black lesbian support group in this country. And Joyce was a member of it. And I wish I had known that we were going to do this. I would have asked Joyce to come today. Joyce is suffering from dementia right now. And her and her partner, Cheryl, are my dearest, dearest friends. The other thing I want to tell you all is that I will be having a, the Celebration of Life party at the South Vallejo Community Center. And you all are invited to that as well. We're going to have big name artists and food, you know, catered by some of the best cooks in Vallejo. And we're going to And since I was on the board of Equality California Equality, I don't know if there's still anybody that's around, but I sent a note out and asked them if the governor could come to the party, you know, because, you know, without us, there would be no same-sex marriage. And one of us is on our way out. So, as my minister said, if you don't toot your own horn, that same horn shall go untooted, you know. And give me my flowers while I can still smell them. And again, I just want to thank you all so very much.
Okay, so we're gonna take like a 10-minute, 15-minute break, and we'll be back. All right, thank you so much.